The millionaire surprises by holding the black woman's hand after 3 years apart. In the heart of New York City, where dreams clash and fates intertwine, a scene unfolds that could only be described as staggering. Isabel Hart, a gifted architect, stood at the edge of a lavish cocktail party, her heart beating loudly in her chest. She hadn't felt alive in a long time. Not since the day she married Ryan Matthews, the billionaire whose name echoed like a phantom through the skyscrapers. The atmosphere buzzed with laughter, the clink of glasses, and the alluring scent of gourmet hors d'oeuvres. Yet Isabel felt a familiar heaviness draped over her shoulders. And then David Johnson entered the room. He was a striking presence, with a warmth that lit up the dreary corners of her heart. His smile, bright and inviting, broke through the icy facade she wore like armor. The moment their eyes met, the world dimmed around them. It was just her and the fire of possibility igniting between them. The man who once sent shivers down her spine had turned into a shadow in her life. Their days together weighed down by obligation rather than love. As David approached her, holding his hand out to celebrate their connection, the room seemed to hold its breath. Whispers flitted around them, eager eyes darted their way, and a collective gasp seemed to echo off the walls. How strange, they thought. This charming young man drawing the attention of the city's elite with a simple gesture of friendship. But this was more than just a dance of idle curiosity. It was a spark that ignited the spaces inside her that had grown frigid. "You look stunning, Isabel," David said, his voice a silken caress, as he took her hand with a confidence that sent a tremor through her whole being. But just when her heart began to leap, Ryan intervened, striding across the marble floor with the urgency of a man fighting against time itself. The thrill of the moment collided with anxiety as Ryan's furious yell, I need you." It was an uncharacteristic admission, a glimpse of vulnerability that pulled at her heart like a tide, dragging her away from the shore. As the night wore on and emotions surged, Ryan took a bold step forward, dropping to one knee in front of the gathered crowd. "Isabel, will you marry me again? I know I failed you, but let's rediscover us. Let me love you the way you deserve." Through the sea of faces, whispers erupted like a tempest, leaving her breathless. She was caught in a whirlwind, suspended between past shadows and the bright promises of a future she longed for, yet feared. Could love blossom where pain had once taken root? As she stared into Ryan's eyes, her heart raced, caught in a storm of uncertainty. What would she choose? What lay ahead in the tangled path of love, duty, and rekindled feelings? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without prior notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching this? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. As Isabel stood, her heart pounding, she felt the weight of Ryan's gaze. It was a mixture of hope and fear. Silence wrapped around them, every eye in the room holding its breath, waiting for her answer. But before she could respond, chaos erupted. A sudden, shrill sound pierced the air, an ear-splitting alarm blaring from somewhere deep within the sprawling venue. Glasses clinked, laughter morphed into gasps, and the atmosphere turned electric. "That can't be good," David muttered, his smile replaced with confusion. Isabel's heart raced for a different reason now. She looked toward Ryan, his brows furrowing in intensity, his focus shifting. But then came the announcement, urgent and commanding. Over the intercom, echoing off the marble walls. "Attention! There's been an emergency situation. Please exit the building immediately." Shouts echoed. Footsteps thundered. In an instant, the elegant party transformed into a scene of madness. Isabel turned to David, searching for clarity in a swirling storm of chaos. Before they could move, Ryan seized her wrist tightly. "We need to go, now." His urgency was tinged with something deeper, a thread of fear that tied them together. Isabel nodded, her body moving instinctively toward the exit. But she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong, something beyond the emergency. As they plunged through the doors, the cool evening air hit her skin, a sharp contrast to the overwhelming heat inside. But once outside, the night offered no comfort. The street was packed with people, panic replacing elegance. Sirens wailed in the distance, pushing feelings of dread down her throat. But Ryan's grip on her wrist was firm. "Isabel," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper, "I have to tell you something. You need to know." They ducked into a quiet alley, away from the chaos, and Ryan looked deeply into her eyes. But before he could continue, a loud crash echoed from behind them. A figure stumbled out of the crowd, collapsing onto the pavement. "Isabel," the figure cried. It was Lauren, her old friend, looking disheveled and out of breath. "You have to come with me. It's urgent." "What's happening?" Isabel asked, bewildered by the whirlwind of events. "There's been an accident. It's about Ryan." Lauren's eyes were wild with fear, panic spilling from her lips. Ryan stiffened, his expression shifting to one of guarded concern. "What do you mean? What happened?" But before Lauren could reply, a flash and a series of loud booms erupted behind them. An explosion rigged inside the building they just vacated. In an instant, a wave of heat surged forth and debris flew. People screamed, scattering in every direction. Isabel stumbled back, heart racing, her breath stolen from her lungs. Ryan pulled her close, shielding her with his body, just as part of the facade fell. "Isabel!" Ryan shouted over the chaos. "Don't let go! Stay with me!" "Is it you?" Lauren gasped, eyes darting between them. "Are you?" But her words hung in the air like an unspoken promise, lingering with uncertainty. In that moment, the world warped around Isabel. The pain coursing through her, emotions spinning wildly, left her teetering between love and betrayal, confusion and clarity. She glanced at Ryan, the man who proposed just moments ago, and then at Lauren, who seemed to hold secrets exploding beneath the surface. What was happening? The truth hung just out of reach, swirling like smoke amidst the chaos. She felt dizzy. Then a darkness loomed. An urgent voice broke through her thoughts. "We're not safe yet. We need to move." And as they fled deeper into the street, the weight of the night pressed on them. The bond of love, the question of loyalty, and the devastating secrets, any of which could fracture their reality forever, threatened to bring the facade crashing down around them. As they fled deeper into the street, the chaos pulsed like a living thing, wrapping around them with its dark tendrils. Isabel felt her heartbeat thumping in her ears, drowning out the sounds of panic swirling around. The fear in Ryan's eyes was palpable, making her heart race even faster. She followed him without hesitation, but uncertainty clawed at her insides. "Isabel, we have to," Ryan started. But just then, another explosion rippled through the air, shaking the ground beneath them. Debris rained down like confetti from hell, and the crowd screamed again in sheer panic. "Keep moving," Lauren shouted. They ducked behind a taxi, gasping for breath. Isabel grabbed Ryan's arm, her panic mixing with anger. "What's happening? Why are you hiding something?" But before he could answer, Isabel saw them, shadows rushing toward them. Figures in uniforms, faces obscured by masks. Her stomach dropped, a cold knot forming as she realized they weren't here to help. "They're coming!" Lauren shouted, Backing away instinctively, Ryan pushed Isabel behind him, a protective shield. "Stay close," he commanded, but Isabel's heart raced with a different kind of fear. Who were these people? A voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. "This way! Move!" It wasn't just any voice. It was David's. He darted in their direction, eyes wide and frantic. "David!" Isabel cried out, relief crashing over her. But it was there, just beneath the surface, the uncertainties of her heart. The feeling twisted, pulling her back. Then everything slowed. David reached them, grasping each of their shoulders with urgency. "We need to get you out of here." A group of masked men was closing in, fingers twitching on weapons. There was no looking back now. But something about David's grip sent chills through her. He wasn't just an ally. He felt more like a predator lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, Ryan's grip tightened on her wrist. "Isabel!" he shouted, eyes wide in disbelief. "He can't be trusted." "What?" Isabel turned to Ryan, confusion bright in her mind. "What do you mean?" But before Ryan could answer, a cacophony erupted behind them. Voices, chaos, the whole world spun to madness. In the tumult, a blinding flash ignited from nowhere, overwhelming her. Isabel staggered back, just as David pulled her closer. But then the truth unraveled. A mask fell off one of the men rushing toward them, revealing a face familiar yet frightening. "Isabel," the man said, voice laced with desperation. It was Tom, Ryan's brother, the one she thought was gone years ago, lost to the world in a tragic accident. "Tom?" Isabel gasped, the shock crumpling her heart. Impossible. He vanished without a trace, presumed dead. "Isabel, you have to come with me," he urged, eyes darting to the chaos around them. "You've been in danger all this time." "What?" The words fell from her like stones. Danger? All time? Her mind spun, trying to make sense. "Trust me, please," he begged, desperation etching into his features. "They've been after you because of what you know, because of who you are." Ryan's face blanched, tons of emotions flickering across his features. Hurt, betrayal, desperation. "You knew?" he breathed, shock crashing over him. Isabel felt the world tilt, every thread of her past and present tangling in chaos. She glanced between Ryan, Lauren, and Tom, questions flooding her mind. "Isabel, please," Tom urged again. Panic rising. "We have to go now. They're here." But as Isabel stood, anchored between them, dread filled her. Secrets and shadows loomed larger than life. Those she had loved, those she trusted, all clashing beneath the flickering lights of the burning city around them. Was anyone real? Before she could respond, a muffled boom echoed through the air, shaking her to the core. The ground trembled, and everything went dark. What was happening? Who could she trust? And what truth had she yet to uncover? All this uncertainty clawed at her. As darkness enveloped them, a chill shot down her spine, leaving her breathless, hungry for answers, but trapped in a web of lies and lost identities. The night was only beginning to reveal its secrets. The darkness wrapped around them, suffocating, as Isabel's heart raced. She felt lost in a tempest of confusion. She clung to Ryan, her mind reeling. Tom's urgency thickened the air as shadows loomed closer. She took a deep breath, trying to ground herself amid the chaos. "Ryan, what do you know?" she demanded, her voice rising above the chaos. But before he could answer, another explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The air filled with thick smoke and the sound of shattering glass. Isabel's breath quickened, panic surged through her. Then suddenly, the looming shadows advanced. "Run, now!" Tom shouted, urgency spilling from his lips. Isabel stared at him, questions swirling in her mind. But fear propelled her feet. They darted past the crowd, adrenaline thrumming. She could feel everyone's eyes, judging, questioning. Were they safe? And then, out of nowhere, the crowd seemed to part like a curtain. A figure stood there, blocking the path, arms crossed. "Stop," he commanded, voice cold as steel. It was Mark, Ryan's business partner, the man who had been a fixture in their lives for years. Isabel felt her heart drop. "Mark?" Ryan's voice was low, but the tension in it was palpable. "What are you doing here?" "Just following orders," Mark said, his gaze flicking toward Isabel, his eyes dark with something unreadable. "What orders?" Isabel asked, her voice trembling. The certainty she craved slipped through her fingers. Mark took a step closer, and in that moment, everything stopped. "You're the key, Isabel, and you don't even know it." "What do you mean?" Her confusion deepened. It wrapped around her like chains. But before Mark could answer, the shadows re-emerged, crashing through the crowd, sending people tumbling. It was a wild scramble for safety, every soul for themselves. Isabel's pulse thundered in her ears. She turned to Ryan, fear etched across his face. "What's happening?" she yelled over the noise. Suddenly, Mark pulled out a small device, something shiny, something menacing. "You're coming with me," he said with iron resolve, moving forward. But Ryan moved instinctively, blocking Isabel. "No!" he shouted, voice thick with panic. "You don't take her!" In a flash, Mark's expression turned from cold determination to something darker. He raised the device, and suddenly the ground shook again. This time it felt like an earthquake. Isabel fell to her knees, gasping as dust and debris rained down. "Isabel!" Ryan shouted, reaching for her hand. But as she looked up, something bizarre happened. The world shifted. She squinted through the chaotic haze, and there, suddenly, stood a figure she never expected to see. Natalie, Isabel's sister, an enigma whom she thought had vanished years ago. "Natalie?" Isabel gasped, her voice barely a whisper. Confusion twisted in her gut as she processed the sight. But there was an edge to Natalie, a coldness, as if she belonged to this chaotic world. "Isabel, we need to go," she said, her voice firm but urgent. "Go? Go where?" Isabel felt her heart sink. "Why are you here? What's going on?" Natalie's expression hardened. "It's not safe for you. You're in the middle of everything." "What do you mean, everything?" Isabel cried out, desperation clawing at her throat. Then, in the midst of the chaos and confusion, Mark's device blared, lighting up in a brilliant flash, so bright it blinded her. In that moment, nothing else mattered. The world exploded into chaos. Everything shattered. Answers, trust, clarity, leaving Isabel stranded in a swirling vortex of unknowns. An electric charge coursed through the air. Secrets buried beneath the surface shattered like glass, leaving Isabel gasping for breath. As darkness unfurled once again, one thought pierced through her mind. What had she truly become a part of? Who could she trust? The line between friend and foe was dissolving, and the reality of her world felt more fragile than ever. The darkness pressed in around them, a suffocating blanket, as fear surged through Isabel. She squinted through the smoke, desperately searching for clarity, but chaos ruled the night. "What's going on?" she pressed again, her voice shaking. "Natalie's right," Ryan said, his gaze darting towards the approaching shadows. "We need to go, now." But just as he spoke, a thunderous crack echoed, a blinding flash exploded, and the world outside their immediate chaos shifted dramatically. Isabel shielded her eyes, heart pounding, but the sight before her was surreal. A massive blimp hovered above the building, emblazoned with a stark black emblem she didn't wreck. It was a symbol of something sinister, a signal she couldn't decipher. "Get down!" Tom shouted, yanking her away, but the air was thick with confusion. From the blimp, A bright beam of light shot down, illuminating a figure suspended from a harness. In an instant, the scene became feverish as people pointed upwards, voices rising in panic and awe. "Is that?" Isabel's thoughts raced, the weight of disbelief crashing over her. The figure descended, and recognition hit her like a punch to the gut. It was David. As he hung in midair, a smirk on his face, his eyes glimmered with a dark glee. "David?" Ryan growled, anger radiating from him. "What the hell are you doing?" With a flourish, David landed gracefully, his confidence as chilling as the night air. "Nice of you all to join the party," he announced, voice dripping with mockery. Composure fell from Ryan like a shed skin, replaced with pure confusion and a hint of fear. "We're not here for this," Isabel shouted, her heart racing. "What's going on?" "Did you really think it was just a coincidence?" David responded, stepping closer, weaving through the thrumming crowd. "You've all been pawns in a much larger game. But tonight? Tonight is just the beginning." Stunned silence enveloped them, hearts hammering with the weight of realization. Mark, standing alone, looked ill, like he knew exactly what David meant. But before any more could be said, an alarming sound cut through the tension. A blaring siren pierced the air, pulling attention back. "Run!" Lauren shouted, instinctively grasping Isabel's arm. But the world spun as another blimp appeared, swooping down with pensively arachnoid grace, its descent marked by more figures dropping from harnesses, figures dressed in black combat gear. They stormed towards them, faces hidden beneath masks, weapons at the ready. "Stay close!" Ryan shouted, but Isabel felt the walls of her life collapsing. Her heart raced, a primal instinct teasing her to flee. But David's laughter rang out, shattering everything. "Don't you see? There's nowhere to hide." Then, in a devastating twist, the lights illuminated his face fully. Isabel's breath hitched. She recognized the emblem on his jacket. It was the same as the one on the blimp. "You're with them?" she gasped, heart sinking into a pit of despair. "Welcome to the family," he sneered, the malice dripping from his voice like venom. Ryan turned to her, shock passing through him. "Isabel!" Before he could finish, the world fractured again. An explosion burst through the street, sending a rush of heat and sound cascading over them. Isabel's heart dropped, and everything blurred around her. As she struggled to comprehend the whirlwind, a painful truth dawned, hollowing out her insides. Tom, standing between them and the encroaching chaos, suddenly shifted, his expression resolute but chilling. "You need to choose, Isabel, now." "Choose what?" Isabel cried, confusion thrumming through her like electricity. "Us or them?" Tom shouted, casting a glance at David. "We can protect you, but you must decide." An overwhelming sense of betrayal hung heavy in the air, ripping apart the fabric of everything she thought was real. As she looked from Tom to Ryan and back to David, panic clawed at her throat. With each tick of her heart, a new reality unfolded, and what had once felt so certain began to unravel like a spool of thread. Who could she trust now? The shadows loomed larger, closing in, and Isabel felt herself caught between a past she couldn't leave behind and an uncertain future that threatened to engulf her. And in that moment of excruciating choice, a siren blared louder, drowning out the chaos, shaking the ground beneath them. Time suspended, and with it the tether to everything she had ever known slipped from her grasp. Isabel stood frozen, caught in a whirlwind of faces and tumbling emotions. The cacophony blurred into a single, overwhelming noise. "Choose, Isabel!" Tom's voice sliced. She wanted to scream, to run, to make any choice that would dissolve this suffocating tension. "Screw this!" Ryan shouted. "We're sticking together!" His determination pierced the fear surrounding them, a flicker of hope in darkness. Isabel turned to Ryan, searching his eyes, desperate for clarity. But just then, the blaring siren morphed into an even louder, deafening roar. The blimp overhead changed colors, shades of red and yellow flashing like a warning beacon. Then, suddenly, everything went dark. A massive explosion erupted above them, showering sparks everywhere. The ground shook like a beast waking from slumber. Isabel stumbled, heart racing, as blinding flames illuminated their terrified expressions. Yells of terror crashed against her ears, hands gripping her shoulder, and it was David. "Get down," he yelled. He grabbed Isabel just as the ground shook again. She ducked, and Ryan pulled her close, shielding her from the chaos. They pressed against the side of a building, the heat from the fire licking at their backs. In that moment of stark fear, Isabel caught a glimpse of determination in David's eyes. Was it kindness or cruelty? Yet amid the chaos, one thing echoed. Something felt incredibly wrong. Another blast cracked through the air. Smoke began filling the alley, and panic rippled through the masses. She could feel her heart pounding, every beat like a drum, warning of danger. And then, it happened. A translucent figure burst past the flames. It glided with an unearthly speed right into the chaos, weaving effortlessly through the armed men. Isabel blinked in disbelief, questioning her sanity. "What is that?" she gasped. "No!" Ryan's voice trembled like an echo of disbelief. "It can't be." Isabel struggled to understand, but the figure, the shimmering outline, moved with purpose, and then it turned. Just for a moment it pushed forward, and then she saw the face, familiar yet unrecognizable. "Mom?" Isabel's heart stopped. The woman who had vanished without a trace years ago stood before her, eyes wide and pleading. "Isabel, we don't have much time," her mother shouted, fear etched across her face. "They've come for you. We need to go, now." "Mom?" Isabel's voice cracked, shredded by confusion. "How could this be real? You're here? You were gone." "Not now," her mother pressed, urgency blazing in her eyes. "There's no time for explanations." Behind them, chaos erupted anew. The soldiers regrouped, weapons aiming with chilling precision. Isabel felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. "Is it really you?" But her mother didn't give her a chance to question further. "Please, believe," she pleaded, extending her hand. "We can escape together. You're in grave danger." Ryan's expression was torn. "Isabel, do you trust her?" The question hung in the air like a noose, tightening around her throat. In that moment, everything blurred. The shadows around them were closing in. David's eyes flashed with uncertainty. Tom's face hardened with fear. A blaring alarm drowned out the noise of the night. People screamed. Confusion spread like wildfire. And then another explosion echoed, igniting a portion of the street. Isabel stood at a crossroads, heart pounding, the weight of sorrow anchoring her. "What do I do?" she whispered, the gravity of her choices overwhelming. Her mother's outstretched hand seemed like a lifeline pulled from the depths of her past. Yet, looking at Ryan, she felt the anchor of her present. The world spun, sirens blared, and a horrifying truth struck her. Everything she thought she knew was hanging by a thread. In the shadows, loyalty shifted, trust crumbled, and as she hesitated, reality twisted like a knife in her gut. "Choose now, Isabel," her mother urged, desperation spilling over every word. As fear coiled around her heart, the air crackled with impending doom. Just as she was about to reach for her mother, another explosion roared, and darkness swallowed her whole. What had just happened? Was her mother an escape or another trap? The night was closing in, and Isabel stood lost among memories and realities, teetering on the edge of everything, wondering if she would ever find her way back to the light. Isabel stood at the precipice of Cha. The flames flickered menacingly behind them, shadows dancing wildly, and somewhere deep inside, uncertainty coiled tighter. With a leap of faith, she was about to grasp it, to jump into the unknown. And then the world exploded, not with sound, but with silence. A suffocating pause that held every breath hostage. Time froze, and in that surreal moment, Isabel felt a sharp sting in her chest. Disjointed fragments of reality danced at the edge of her mind. David, uncharacteristically calm, stepped forward, eyes gleaming not with malice, but something darker, something more sinister. "Do you even know who you're reaching for?" he said, voice smooth as ice. "This isn't your mother, Isabel. She's not who you think she is." "What?" Confusion knotted in her stomach. She looked at her mother. Was it really her? The woman's face was strained, but the warmth of her hand felt real, grounding. The air thickened with tension. Isabel's mind raced as doubt gnawed at her. "What do you mean?" she demanded, pulling away slightly. But the moment crackled with fear. From somewhere behind, a voice echoed, low and menacing. "Enough games, everyone. We don't have time." Isabel turned. A new figure emerged from the smoke, and recognition surged within her. Mark. He wasn't just another player in this twisted game. He held a command that made everyone still. "Mark?" Ryan's voice was barely a whisper, laced with disbelief. "You're... what?" With an edge of panic, Mark locked eyes with Isabel. "You need to listen to me. They're all lying. Your mother has been dead for years." The world shifted beneath her, tilting at a precarious angle that threatened to collapse. "No, that's not true." Isabel's heart ached, longing to cling to the truth she wanted, the comfort of family and love. "It's true." David stepped back, his smirk fading. "She's with them. We all are." The word hung heavy in the air. Them. A shiver traced down Isabel's spine. The flames flickered higher, a looming backdrop for a revelation that felt like mockery. Mark turned to the crowd gathering behind them, their faces twisted with anticipation and horror. "Isabel, you don't belong here. Your life is a facade, a clever trap." "No!" Desperation clawed at her throat. "You're lying." But then, like a veil lifting, clarity washed over her. Isabel glanced at her mother, her eyes too bright, her smile too rehearsed, a mask slipping. "What did you do?" Isabel's voice trembled, fear opening a dark pit inside her. "Everything I had to," her mother whispered, warmth melting into ice. "We only wanted to protect you." Suddenly, things clicked in place with violent clarity. The missed calls, the warnings, the hidden truths. Everything felt like a jigsaw piece locking into a nightmarish image. "What do you mean, protect?" Mark took a step closer, urgency etched in his expression. "You're part of a much larger equation, Isabel. They need you for something we can't allow." And then came the twist. As if on cue, a deafening blast echoed, this time closer. Pieces of the crumbling world scattered around them like confetti. And just as Isabel focused on Mark, the crowd gasped collectively. From the chaos, two figures emerged, impossibly familiar, yet forever changed. "Isabel, save us," their voices rang out. It was her childhood friends, Jamie and Claire. People she thought had long vanished, swallowed by time or memories. But these versions of them? They were different, darker, twisted. Tears sprang to her eyes. "What happened to you?" "We were taken too, Isabel," Jamie cried, pain etched on her face. "They've changed us, but we're still fighting." A realization hit harder than any explosion ever could. These weren't just friends. They were broken pieces of her past, now riddled with secrets she never sought. And as Isabel stood there, the weight of betrayal pressed down on her. With her world collapsing around her, She felt the very fabric of her identity shredding. A shadow loomed over her. Time hung suspended as David loomed closer, a predatory glint in his eyes. Choices, Isabel. You have to decide. Join us fully, or face the truth, and those you think you know. In that final moment before the walls closed in, Isabel's heart raced with cold clarity. She found herself teetering on a razor's edge, caught between a reality she could barely comprehend and a choice that could change everything. Choose wisely, David's voice echoed, deep and resonant, just before the ground beneath them shook violently once more. Everything shattered, both physically and within her, throwing her into a darkness more profound than any threat she ever faced. The night deepened, secrets spiraling into the abyss, leaving Isabel gasping for air, questioning everything she thought she knew. Isabel gasped, the world held hostage in that eternal moment. She felt dizzy, caught. Please, her mother urged, maintaining that desperate grip. We've come to save you. Save me from what? Isabel's voice was barely a whisper, laced with confusion and heartache. Bombs exploded somewhere in the distance, growing nearer, rattling the very core of the ground beneath them. Somewhere in her mind, a small voice echoed. Did she really want to leave with a stranger who claimed to be her mother? Then came David's chilling laugh, slicing through her thoughts. You really don't get it, do you? She isn't your savior, Isabel. She's your prison. Those words hung in the air like fog, heavy and suffocating. Isabel's heart raced. Prison? The pieces of the puzzle were slippery, slipping from her grasp. She turned to her mother, searching for truth, but all she saw was the flickering shadows playing tricks. Ryan's face was pale, his eyes wide. Isabel, think about it. This whole thing, it's a game. We need to get out of here, now. Tom nodded, drawing closer, urgency splitting his words. They'll come for you if you stay. You're not just any pawn. You're the queen in this game. You have to choose us. Us? Isabel's heart hammered in her chest. What does that even mean? I don't understand. Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled violently again. Shouts erupted around them. Panic rippled through the crowd like a wave. Then she felt it, the sharp crack of something shattering nearby. Watch out! Ryan shouted, grabbing her hand just as debris rained in a brutal cascade. Trapped amid panic and confusion, Isabel flinched, squeezed between her mother and the world spiraling into chaos. Then, as shadows danced and darted, a blinding light cut through the darkness. Isabel shielded her eyes. The brilliance came from a sleek, black helicopter swooping low, casting a menacing shadow over them. Two figures dropped like bombs from its side, landing nimbly amid the chaos. Heavy boots thudded against concrete, sharp and menacing. Hit the girl, shouted one, voice booming. We've got orders. Isabel's heart dropped into her stomach. Fear gripped her. She turned to her mother. What's happening? What do they want? Isabel, her mother called, fear etching every word. But then, suddenly she stepped back, her expression shifting. Beneath the surface of her voice came a low, menacing tone. You need to let them take you. Isabel staggered, disbelief washing over her like ice water. What did you just say? The urgency melted away in an instant, replaced by a chilling reality. Her mother wasn't begging to save her. She was pushing her into the lion's den. You've always been special. You need to find your strength. No, I'm not going anywhere with them. Isabel's voice cracked, clarity blazing in her mind. You're not my mother. The crowd murmured, their eyes glued to the shifting dynamics. Shock woven into whispered phrases as a truth began unveiling itself. A tangle of loyalty and betrayal, love and manipulation. With a violent rush, Mark stepped forward, his gaze suddenly fierce. "Isabel, it's time you learned the truth. Everything is connected. Your mother is part of this. The real threat is closer than you think. It has always been within." Isabel's mind spiraled, trying to catch up with the revelations that crashed like waves against her consciousness. The truth tumbled forward, each word drawing the lines of the past in a mosaic of pain. In the blink of an eye, David lunged, grabbing Isabel roughly. "Enough of this. Time to end the games." But then an unexpected explosion erupted from the left, sending debris flying. The blaring sound of chaos enveloped her senses. In that instant, the world felt warped. The ground fluttered beneath her feet, and somewhere, amid the disarray, Isabel's vision sharpened. She caught a glimpse of the people she thought she knew, now transforming like shadows in her heart. "Choose!" David shouted over the noise. "You have to claim who you are." As everything spun around her, Isabel's heart drummed against her ribcage, uncertainty clawing at her insides. She blinked, trying to focus on her world. Her mother's pleas echoed, Ryan's figure grew dim among the chaos, and Tom's urgent eyes surrounded her. And then she remembered something, a secret kept buried in the depths of her memory. "Am I?" Before she could finish, the ground trembled violently, one last time. The helicopter loomed overhead, and the shadows it cast felt impossibly cold. A roar erupted from the crowd, and in that moment of overwhelming panic, Isabel felt herself being pulled, not just into the chaos, but into something deeper. A truth that shattered everything she once believed. The sound of her heart thumped against her ears. As darkness fell over them, so did the shadows of her past, leaving her gasping for clarity in a storm of uncertainty. What was happening? Who was she? And who could she ever trust again? Isabel gasped as the world spiraled out of control, encased in a thick haze of uncertainty. The name David loomed in her mind like a dark cloud as the flames danced viciously around her. There was no escape, just chaos roaring in every direction. Suddenly, it all felt surreal. She blinked hard, trying to make sense of it, that cutting edge of fear tightening in her chest. "Mom!" she cried, reaching out for her mother again. But the woman's face was shifting. The warm smile turned cold, mask cracking just a fraction. Isabel's heart jolted. "What do you mean you're protecting me?" Before her mother could respond, the shadow figures pressed in, fingers twitching on their weapons. Mark stepped forward, speaking urgently, but it was drowned out by the loud, thundering noise above them. The helicopter hovered, a metallic beast with shining lights cutting through the smoke. "Isabel!" Ryan shouted, yanking her toward him as a burst of flames flared nearby. "We have to!" But then the blast filled the air, this time, right next to them. It exploded like a firework gone wrong, sending them all sprawling. Debris flew in every direction. Isabel closed her eyes, feeling the metallic taste of panic flood her mouth. When she opened them again, everything changed drastically. Amid the smoke, a figure appeared. Not one of the threatening shadows, but someone else. A woman with long flowing hair stepped into the glow, face shining like a beacon through the chaos. "Isabel." The woman called, voice piercing, drenched in urgency. Isabel blinked, recognizing her instantly. It was her grandmother, the very one who had raised her after her mother disappeared. But how? "Grams?" It felt like a fever dream. "What are you doing here?" Before she could finish, the world shifted around them. With surprising speed, her grandmother reached out, pulling Isabel into a fierce embrace. "I had to find you. They're on to you." "What?" Isabel felt shock ripple through her. "Who's on to me? Listen carefully." Her grandmother's face contorted with fear as explosions boomed in the background. "I didn't just come here to save you. I came to warn you. Everything you believe is a lie." "What?" Isabel's breath hitched. Her heart pounded. "What do you mean? Who are you talking about?" Then there was a deadly silence, the kind that rings in one's ears. A sneak of realization crept into Isabel's mind. "You're part of this, aren't you?" The words slipped out almost like a confession. "No, it's complicated. Just trust me," her grandmother insisted, desperation flashing in her eyes. But just then, the ground shook violently again, parting beneath them. Isabel lost her footing, tumbling to the side. Her grandmother fell, grabbing frantically at the debris as an explosion blasted outward. "Isabel!" Ryan's desperate voice cut through the chaos as he lunged to help her. Suddenly, icy fingers gripped Isabel's heart. "No!" She screamed, but it was too late. The smoke swallowed everything in an all-consuming blackness, and then, from the depths of this engulfing void, a flash struck her. A shard of memory, a moment from years ago, that was buried deep. Isabel recalled a midnight conversation with her grandmother, words speckled with worry. "You can't tell anyone about this. It's unsafe." And then, everything hit like a truck. "The truth," Isabel choked, but a rush of memories flooded her mind. Hidden files, whispers about her mother's ties, and strange connections to the shadows surrounding her. "Your grandmother is involved in this, Isabel." Mark's voice boomed from somewhere, cutting through her haze. "You don't know the half of it." Her mind spun, grappling with the magnitude of those words. "What do you mean?" She turned, panic rising, grappling with family ties that felt like barbed wire. "Your family is at the center of a web you can't see yet. You're not just in danger. You are the key to all of this." Heart racing, Isabel swayed on her feet. "What, you think I'm just going to accept that?" But before anyone could reply, another bout of chaos erupted above them. Isabel's grandmother, gasping as she struggled to her feet, glowed with urgency. "They're coming. We have to move, now." And in that instant, everything shifted again. The realization washed over Isabel. Trust shattered. Her family, the chaos, the shadows, they were all part of a tangled scheme, and she was standing on the brink of a truth that felt far more painful than the explosions ringing in her ears. The night twisted around her, lying behind the tempest of confusion and fear. Isabel held her breath. What lay ahead shrouded in a darkness deeper than any night. Reality cloaked in chaos, waiting to be unraveled. Would the truth set her free, or would it be the end of her world? Isabel stood at the edge of madness, her heart pounding as flames and chaos collided around her. She turned to her grandmother, frantically seeking a flicker of reassurance. But the fire in her grandmother's eyes, the urgency, made Isabel hesitate. "This isn't who you are," her grandmother insisted, grasping Isabel's shoulders, voice trembling. "You're stronger than they know." "Strong? I can't even tell who's telling the truth." Isabel felt the warmth of her grandmother fade, replaced by the sting of betrayal. Ryan stepped closer, his eyes fierce with determination. "Isabel, listen. We're running out of time. Don't let her pull you back." Before she could respond, thunderous footsteps rang out, shadows closing in. The figures from the helicopter moved faster, their expressions grim. Isabel could feel the weight of the world pushing down, squeezing the air out of her lungs. "This is all wrong. I need to know." "Follow me," Ryan shouted, grabbing her hand. They sprinted through the chaos as shots rang out behind them, fear bolting through her even as she clung to Ryan. "Grams!" Isabel screamed, looking back. But her grandmother lingered, caught in a moment of indecision, overwhelmed by the chaos. "We need to go!" As they rushed down the alley, another explosion rocked the street, sending a shockwave that knocked Isabel off her feet. Cold panic rushed in. She twisted, trying to see through the dust and smoke, but everything blared, drowning her cries. "Get up! We have to keep moving!" Ryan's voice pushed her, grounding her in urgency. They darted around a corner, stumbling into a pocket of silence. Just for a moment, Isabel could feel her breath echoing in the sudden calm. "What do we do?" Ryan's face was tight, every muscle taut. "We get to the safe house. But you have to trust me. Trust me more than anyone else." Isabel nodded, uncertainty mixing with a flicker of hope. But as they turned, there stood David, a mix of smugness and menace curling on his lips. "You're not getting away that easily." In that flush of dread, Isabel felt something rising within her, a surge of adrenaline. "Get back!" she shouted, surprising herself. "You have no hold on me." David's smile faltered, just as shadows descended. The world seemed to bend as the darkness surged forth, licking at the edges of her vision, leaving uncertainty in its wake. "Isabel!" Her grandmother's voice cut through the haze. "Don't listen to him. You're more powerful." Shock washed over Isabel, mingling with rage and fear, grounding her. In a sudden rush, the chaos morphed into clarity. With a swift motion, Isabel turned to David, voice firm. "I choose my path. I refuse to be your pawn any longer." As if the words fractured the air, light spilled into the alleyway. The shadows receded, leaving David momentarily stunned. Ryan stepped forward. "We're not afraid of you." And just like that, everything shifted. A gust of wind surged through, whipping the smoke aside. The figures in black faltered, caught off guard. "Go! Now!" Isabel screamed, adrenaline pushing her forward. They ran, hearts pounding, breathing hard, through the streets that were now a mottled landscape of fear and fire. One final glance back revealed David, frustration morphing his features. For a split moment, he looked less menacing, more desperate. Yet the weight of the night still lurked. Questions hovered like specters. As they reached a safe corner, Isabel turned to Ryan, his face lit with determination. "Is it over?" She whispered, hope glimmering faintly. "For now," he said, voice steady, "but this isn't the end." The path ahead was uncertain, the truth still veiled. But in that moment, surrounded by the wreckage of it all, Isabel felt the first true flicker of strength. She had her memories, her choices, her people, and as they caught their breath, the dawn breathed life into the city, bathing everything in soft gold. But what would come next in this web of shadows? That question lingered, the answers dancing just outside her reach. "Hey, before we wrap up this incredible journey, I need you to do something important. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming up. Smash that like button now to boost the algorithm and help us grow. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Let's hear what you think. Don't wait 1 second more to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this shocking conclusion. Your support makes all the difference. Show you're a true fan.